February is over and it's time to talk about the books that we read. Welcome in. I hope everyone had a good February. I know I had a very productive one. I think I read a total of 10 books. I set a goal of 8. And for the second month this year, we have exceeded our TBR. I'm going to real quickly just go through the books that I read, tell you if they're worth your time, and tell you what I liked about the book. Let's get into it. Let me get my little analog tracker. I started tracking the books that I read every month very, very simply in this journal. It's nothing to brag about, but I like being able to see my month page by page. So I've been printing these little book covers and tracking my ratings. So the first book that we are going to talk about is Game Changer by Rachel Reed. This was a hockey romance. If you haven't heard anything about Heated Rivalry or the Game Changer series, I don't know where you've been.
I wanted to introduce myself. Okay.
I don't know what rock you were under. I'm not sure what world you were living in, but it's like all people can talk about right now.
This is such a bad idea.
Anyways, I gave it a shot. I didn't want to jump into Heated Rivalry until I read Game Changer. And my thoughts are, it was an okay book. I rated Game Changer 2 out of 5 stars. It was just really spicy from the get-go, like from chapter 2 on. And I felt that the story lacked a lot of depth. It was kind of overshadowed by all the spice. I do hear Heated Rivalry is a good book, and I hear that it may be even better than Game Changer. I'm not into the hype. I'm sorry. I'm one of those people that if everyone loves it, I'm gonna just say no. I don't need to see it. Everyone else has seen it. Everyone else is talking about it. I don't need to talk about it. You don't want to hear me talk about that. So 2 out of 5 stars was my rating, and I gave it 5 out of 5 for spice. I did read Game Changer on my Kindle, and because it's a 2 out of 5 stars, that's going to be a flop for me. Would not recommend. The next book I want to talk about is Foxglove by Adeline Grace. So I did read Foxglove physically. This is book 2 of the Belladonna series. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars because it was a really fun story. It was a continuation of book 1. Obviously, it was some of the same characters that we met in book 1 and some new characters as well. And it was really fun to explore those new characters and also a whole new problem that our main character had to deal with. The Belladonna series is a YA series, so as far as spice goes, I think I would rate it around a 2 to 3 out of 5, only because there's some insinuation of some spice and there's some closeness that's involved, however, not explicit. So 2.5 out of 5 for spice, I think, would be my final rating. Because it's 4 out of 5 stars, I would consider this a top. It's a very fun book. I really enjoyed reading it. I can't wait to jump into book number 3, which is called Wisteria. And the book was very twisty. I loved how I wasn't sure who was who and what was what until the very end of the book. And if you've read this book, then you know what I mean. If you haven't, then I'm not going to tell you because we give spoiler-free reviews here. The next book that we read in February is This Will Be Fun by E.B. Asher. I rated this book 3.5 stars out of 5 and 3 out of 5 for spice. I really love this book because of the comedy aspect of the plot. The author did such a good job writing this book, kept my interest, kept things moving along, made really mundane things sound and seem fun. And I loved comparing a lot of the things we do in modern day and see how the author twisted it for a non-technological time. Does that make any sense? Maybe not. But read this book if you like rom-coms or if you like some lighthearted fantasy, especially if you're a big fan of Assistant to the Villain or that series. I think you would really like this one. Book 2 does come out, I think, in the spring. Even next month, I think. So I didn't even know there was going to be a book 2. So I'm actually so incredibly excited for book 2. Curious how we will continue this story because it did really wrap up neatly. I love to compare this book to The Princess Bride as well. It just gives that same vibes. And I think everybody should read it. So because I rated it a 3.5 out of 5, this is a top. I think you should read it. The next book that I'm going to talk about, I call it like the sleeper book because I think people are sleeping on this book. I think the author is sleeping on her contemporary romance skills and abilities. I call it a sleeper book because I didn't expect to love this book so much. This was an absolute February banger. And if you take anything away from this video, I want it to be that you need to give this book a chance. And it is Summer in the City by Alex Astor. Who would have thought our fantasy queen would be writing contemporary romance? I love this book. I compared it to some of like Emily Henry or Allie Hazelwood's books just because it was romance, it was funny, Alex's writing was very witty, and I had such a good time that I jumped into another series by Alex thinking that it would be similar to this. And it was not, but we'll talk about that later. I did rate this a 4 out of 5 stars because I loved it so much, even though it was a large print edition. I don't care. I flew through this book, and I did give it a 4 out of 5 for spice because it was a little spicy. A lot of sexual tension. However, there weren't a ton of spice scenes, and the main character in this book was so cute, and the ending was so cute, and I just love this couple, and I loved Alex's writing, and what more can I say? I think you get the idea. Read this book. It's a top for me. I read this book physically. This is book 2 of a very popular series called The Cat and Mouse Duet, and that is Hunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. I enjoyed Haunting Adeline more than I thought I would. I think I rated it lower, but then I couldn't stop thinking about this book because it was so wild and crazy, and I had never read a book like it. And so I had to jump into book 2. This one was a thickie. I think we finished this book during our 24-hour vlog that I just posted a week or 2 ago, so check that out. I did rate this 4 stars out of 5, 5 out of 5 for spice. There is some non-con in here and consensual material in here, so make sure you read your triggers before you read this book, especially there are some touchy subjects and they are really difficult to read. However, even though those scenes were really difficult to read, the second half of the book kind of made a little bit of a switch, and it wasn't as hard or tough as the first half. So really push through it if you want to. That's going to be a top for me. 4 out of 5, of course, always a top. Because I loved Summer in the City so freaking much, I told you I picked up another series by Alex Astor, and that was Light Lark, a YA fantasy series. I did get this from my library. However, I do own book 2 and 3. So, you find a deal and you just have to take advantage of it. That is my reasoning. That is my excuse. I will not be answering any more questions about it, but whatever. I found this at the library and I read it thinking that it would be similar to the writing style that Alex used in Summer in the City, and it wasn't. And that's okay. That was my fault. It's nobody else's fault but mine. This was a crazy ride. They say that this is like games, but it's really not. Like there is a competition happening. However, the focus of the plot is not on the competition. It's really our main character's kind of experience uncovering information she did not know before. I rated this a 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I would recommend it to you if you like YA fantasy. I'm obsessed with the 2 male characters in this book, and I don't know whose side I'm on. I'm still trying to decide. And I am very hopeful that book 2 and book 3 get better. I'm going to continue this series, hands down. No questions. Because I need to see where it goes. I need to see where the story goes. I did rate it a 1 out of 5 for spice. Let's be honest, there was no spice. It's a YA fantasy, but there was some things that happen. So 1 out of 5 for spice. I keep moving around in this chair, so sorry if that's annoying for you. Light Lark was not on the February TBR. We did not pick that blindly. That just happened to come in, and I had some free time. I was also doing a 24-hour vlog, so I just kind of squeezed it in. I don't know when I read it, but it happened during the 24-hour vlog. We read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I rated this at 3.5 stars out of 5. It was a good time. We enjoyed ourselves. The characters were fun and cute, and I liked the premise of the book. We have a U.S. son of the president, and we have a U.K. prince, and they get to know each other. It's an contemporary romance. I did really enjoy reading about Alex and Henry. I honestly, I don't want to compare the hockey romance to this type of romance, but if you were going to choose between Game Changer and Red, White, and Royal Blue, I would recommend this one way more than I would recommend Game Changer. This had some meat to it. I did rate it a 4 out of 5 for spice. There were quite a few spice scenes. They were pretty descriptive. I do believe that this book was a Goodreads Choice 2019 winner as well. Okay, and now we're going to talk about my auto by author, which is Allie Hazelwood. This is the new book that came out this month called Two Can Play. I had really high hopes for this. I knew that it was an audiobook previously and I had seen it. I wasn't drawn to listening to the audiobook, but then Allie decided to release it in a paperback form and I was like, sign me up. I did rate this a 3.5 out of 5 stars and a 3.5 out of 5 spice. Surprisingly, not a lot of spice in this book, but also not a whole lot of pages to be writing spice. I liked the MMC in this book. Jessie was freaking cool. And I think it would kind of fall under like the miscommunication trope, I guess, if I had to list one. But yeah, always a good time with Allie, and I am happy that I picked this one up. 3.5 is going to be top for me. And then once again, if you did watch my February TBR video, you would know that there was a book that I specifically did not want to read in the beginning of the year. And then we picked it blindly. And then I had to read it in the beginning of the year. We call that karma. That book was A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. I finally finished the series, the books that are published. I finished those. And let me tell you my thoughts. I don't know if I have like an official rating yet for this on Goodreads. However, this may be an unpopular opinion. I know a lot of you go hard for the main character in this book. Don't want to spoil anything. If you live under a rock and you haven't read this series yet, I will be mindful of that. However, I just wasn't that into it. I kind of closed the book and was like, hey, what did I just read? And maybe I'm the weird one. I'm the only one that thinks this. But like, the story was great. I always do enjoy Sarah's writing. However, the entire book was about something I didn't really care about. There was some things thrown in that kept my interest. The main male character. If you know, you know. But yeah, I did not expect to read what I read. And I'm sorry I'm being very vague, but this is like book 6 or 5 of the series. So I simply do not want to spoil it for you. But she's a big one. I have written down that I rated it 4 out of 5 because it was a good book. And I will read the next book that comes out because that's just how it is with Sarah J. Maas. That's really all it is. It's quite simple. If I had to give you a spice rating, I would say 4 out of 5. It was not hunting Adeline, but it was spicy and there were spice scenes. So 4 out of 5 I think is fair. I would say 4 out of 5 is a pretty high rating for this book, in my opinion. I probably, if there were no pressures that I was putting on myself, I would maybe rate it lower. But I think I was just a little sad that, you know, our entire time in this series built up to like this moment and it wasn't what I expected. So just a little sad about that. But I do have high hopes for the next book. So it's going to be a top. I do encourage all my friends to read this series because, yeah, great writing. But that's just my opinion. Okay, the next book that we read was a new release, released today, Tuesday, February 24th. And that book is called And Now Back to You. I did read this on my Kindle, read it instantly. And I did rate this 3.5 stars out of 5. That one, I don't know. I might bump that rating up to a 4 because it was a great time. BK Borison did a phenomenal job continuing this series. And I love the main male character. I think I loved him more than Aiden from book 1. I wasn't totally into the female main character, and I liked Lucy from book 1 more. So if that means anything to you, great. But I loved the scenes in the story, and I felt like I was there with our couple experiencing the things that they were experiencing, and it was just cozy. It was a good cozy winter read, and I would recommend it to you if you need a cozy winter read. So 3.5 stars out of 5. We'll make it a top. And for spice, 3.5 out of 5 for spice too, probably. Yeah, that feels safe. Okay, so now that brings us kind of towards the end of the month. We're doing our final push for the last week of February. I did jump into Six Scorched Roses, which is book 1.5 of the Crowns of Nyaxia series. I rated The Serpent in the Wings of Night 5 stars. And I read on Carissa Broadbent's website that you should probably read the novellas in between the series. So I did. And I didn't think that a novella would slap so hard. I read this book on my Kindle and I rated it a 4 out of 5. A novella. I rated it 4 out of 5. What do you mean? I didn't know novellas could be so good. It was such a good story. I had such a good time. I read it in a day. It was like 160 something pages, I think. 180, I think is what Goodreads says. And I had such a good, fun time. It was maybe 3 out of 5 for spice. Maybe I would even say 2 out of 5 for spice. It wasn't that spicy. There were a scene or two, I would say. But again, it's a novella, so there's not a whole lot of room for spice. If I didn't say Six Scorched Roses is a top for me. So definitely read that. If you're interested in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, I would highly recommend the novellas. I do plan to read the other novella as well in the series. And because I read that one up so fast and I felt so super bad that my friend was waiting patiently to buddy read the second book with me, I picked up The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. So this is book 2 of the Crowns of Nyaxia series. I think this is a duet, but if you look at her reading order online, this is like, there's like a 6-book series or 5-book series, but like this is a duet and then the other one's like a duet. And like, I don't know. I don't claim to understand. I'm just here following the instructions as per the author. And she said, read that novella and then read this. And I'm glad that I did because there's a character that shows up in the novella into this book. So this is book 2. It's pretty thick. I'm really only like 20% of the way through. However, it is technically the last Wednesday before March. So February isn't actually over yet. And I do have time to finish this one. Can't give it a proper rating. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm not here. I listened to the audiobook like all day today. Let me see where I am now. I think I'm like 25. Oh, I'm almost part 3. I think I am on chapter 25. That brings us to page 182. So that means technically we're here in the series. If I'm being honest with you, it's too early to rate this book. However, I'm not into this book as much as I was in the first one. The first one was phenomenal, kept my interest. And I don't know if it's because I'm reading the physical book and also listening to it. I don't know if that was a mistake that I made, but the way that the first book ended, I was like, I have to read book 2. And so here I am reading book 2 and I'm like, okay, I get it, but I don't know if I'm buying it. I don't know if I'm subscribing to it. I don't know if I'm loving it. And I want to love it, because there are other books in this series. So hopefully I'll get more interested in this book. And I will say this one is dual POV. We didn't get that in book 1, I don't think, right? No, I don't think so. So maybe that's throwing me off too, because when it is single POV, there's a lot of unknown things that happen. And I feel like that helps create the tension and like what's going to happen kind of questions while you read. And I think that does enhance the experience. So I can't rate this yet. As far as spice, I don't think there's any spice that's happened yet. So, yep, too early to tell. But if you're interested, you can check it out on Goodreads after I read it to see what I thought, to see my final thoughts. So I'm pretty sure that's all the books that I read in February. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I told you I read 10 books in February. I actually meant 12. So in summary, we had 1 flop. We had 1 flop for February. We had 10 tops and 1 that is still undetermined. I would say that's a pretty successful February. Obviously, for the number of books that we read, that's really successful. And also 4s across the board. We had 5 4-star books, so that is pretty good. I'm happy with that. I would say that 2026 is becoming a bit of a surprise for me because we averaged about 12 to 13 books last month, and now we're reading 12 books this month. And what happened? Did we get more time in a day? Did we get more time in a month? Because how am I consuming so many books per month? Last year was nothing like this. I was lucky if I read 6 books. And I know that for people out there, even reading a book or 2 a month is sometimes a challenge. So don't let me set this unrealistic expectation for you. Just know that I am also baffled that I was capable of doing this. I will say, throwing in some novellas in the mix makes you feel accomplished, makes you feel like you're getting shit done. But they're really small books, like 2 Can Play and 6 Scorched Roses. They combined, they were like 300, 350 pages. So that's not even an entire book in itself. So throwing in some shorter books there keeps that momentum, and I would highly recommend that if you want to read more in a month, if that's one of your goals. So that's going to do it for us for our February reading wrap up. As always, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you spending your time with me. I appreciate you watching the entire video, and I'm super grateful when you hit that like button, or if you even consider subscribing to the channel. to see the next video that I upload. I will say I have some really exciting things coming. I'm currently filming another video as well. This one is going to take some time to film, but you'll see it eventually. I'm really excited about that one. And we typically do these TBRs and reading wrap-ups back to back, and then the next 2 weeks are typically fun little challenges. So make sure you stick around to see those challenges as well. There have recently been a lot of new besties joining us on this journey. So once again, thank you so much if you've subscribed, if you found me, if you're enjoying the content. Always remember that you can let me know what you think, what you're reading, anything down in the comments below. Just be nice, because I'll cry if you're not. So that's just, please. That's all I ask. But it is really good to have you here, and I look forward to creating more videos for you. If you made it this far in the video, drop a blue heart in the comments below to let me know that you made it this far, and comment your favorite reading snack. Let's discuss. And with that, I will see you in the next one. Bye. Right, that's it. Goodbye. Goodbye.